Let me guess. You've heard this or maybe said it yourself. My students can already solve a problem. Why do I need to confuse them by showing them another strategy, especially in elementary math? And honestly, that question does make total sense. But today I want to show you why stopping at one strategy actually limits students, and how teaching multiple strategies doesn't confuse kids, it frees them. Here's the tension I see in classrooms all the time. A student finds a way to solve a problem that works for them. They're successful. They're confident. And then we're told, now show them another way. Now model it differently. And many teachers think, why mess with success? Isn't the goal just getting the right answer? The short answer? No, the goal isn't just solving the problem. The goal is helping students to become problem solvers. And those two things are not the same. I was talking with a group of second grade teachers the other day, and one teacher said very passionately, my students can already subtract. They have a strategy that makes sense to them. Why would I confuse them with another one? And I wanted to say this clearly. That instinct comes from protecting students, not bad teaching. You don't want to overload their working memory. You don't want to create frustration, especially for students with disabilities or students that are multilingual learners. But here's the key shift. When we teach multiple strategies without connections, yes, it's confusing. But when we teach multiple strategies as connected ideas, we're building something powerful, math flexibility. The strongest problem solvers aren't fast because they memorize more. They're fast because they have options. They can pivot. They know another way when one way breaks. Flexibility isn't about showing every strategy. It's about helping students connect. How does your way relate to another way? Let's make this concrete. A student solves 10 minus 3. They count back on their fingers, 9, 8, 7. That works. It's a great strategy. But what happens when the problem becomes 15 minus 8, or 20 minus 9, or 220 minus 86? Finger counting starts to crack. So instead of saying, here's a better way, we might suggest saying, let's connect your way to another way. Counting back connects to number lines, connects to decomposing numbers, connects to place value reasoning. The same math, all different ways of looking at it, all different lenses we can look through. This is especially important for students with disabilities or students that are multilingual learners. Why? Because no single representation works for everyone. Some students think best visually, some with manipulatives, some through language, and some through symbols. When we connect strategies, we reduce cognitive load. We support multiple entry points. We build meaning, not just memorization. Which brings me to one of my favorite stories about education. In the mid-1900s, the US military designed airplane cockpits based on the average pilot. Average height, average arm length, average reach. Here's the problem that happened though. No pilot actually matched the average. So planes were technically designed for everyone, but functionally worked for almost no one. Pilots were too tall, too short, had too long of fingers, too short of fingers. The solution wasn't training pilots harder, it was adjustability. Instead of forcing every pilot to learn how to use the standard controls, the engineers created seats that moved, pedals that adjusted, controls that shifted. Performance and safety skyrocketed. It was called universal design. There's universal design for learning too. Not one perfect strategy that works for everyone, instead multiple adjusted pathways. Here's what actually causes confusion. Dumping strategies without purpose, teaching them in isolation, and never revisiting or connecting them. And here's what reduces confusion. Explicit connections. How is this the same conversations? Comparing student strategies side by side. Confusion doesn't come from too many ideas. It comes from unconnected ideas. Here's something you can try immediately. Tomorrow, when a student shares a strategy, don't say, who did it a different way? Instead say, how does this strategy connect to the one we just saw? Or where do you see the same math happening here? Those questions shift the goal from getting the answer to building thinkers. So yes, celebrate the strategy that does work for a student, and then ask, how does this connect to another way? Because the goal isn't always just solving today's problem. It's preparing students for the problem that won't look familiar tomorrow. If this shifted your thinking even a little, drop a comment how you're already thinking about actively connecting student strategies to each other. And if you want more math teaching ideas that actually work in real classrooms, subscribe and stick around.